Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm blown away and super excited that we have so many distinguished guests this morning. I think we even have more than we were anticipating, and that is a great problem to have, right? So thank you for being here. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for a special award presentation and dedication to Officer Mark Brinkman. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Tracy. I'm the president of Walk Ops, and I have the honor of recognizing a handful of these special guests in front of the room today. If you would, please welcome Leslie Brinkman. Joel and his fiancee Izzy. Nathan and his girlfriend Kelly. Naomi. Ted and Shoshana and their daughter Gabrielle. Ben and Katie. Jennifer Bianchi and her husband Edward, their daughter Heather, and spouse Joe. We're privileged to have several command staff members from the Women's Police Department this morning. We have Chief Dan Nelson, Deputy Chief Cole Langdon. Sorry, did I get Jim Nelson. All right, and Commander Pat Fagan. We also have retired Wayland County Sheriff Mark Brown. For elected officials, we have Shannon Sessions from the Linwood City Council. Thank you. We also have Ron Moore, president of the Linwood Police Guild, and we had Chris yesterday, so thank you for being able to be here for both days. Thank you, each of you, for taking the time to be here with us. As the Walk Ops Executive Board and membership recognize the work and life of our dear friend and colleague.
The Washington Council of Police and Sheriffs has a long-standing history of recognizing excellence by awarding peace officers across the state with the annual Law Enforcement Officer of the Year Award. The purpose of this award was to provide recognition of fairly exceptional and outstanding performance of duties, which bring honor and distinction to the officer, their department, and their profession. Nominees must have exhibited at least one of the following characteristics above and beyond the normal scope of the profession: bravery, heroism, or outstanding service to the community. Every day, brave men and women put on their uniform and confront situations that most people will never encounter. These events may be poignant, like delivering a baby, frightening, like plucking a life from certain death, or terrifying when an encounter turns hostile, violent, or life-threatening. Peace officers are both the first and last line of defense and always society's critical point of resolution. We're extremely fortunate to have such an incredible corps of public servants willing to protect and serve. In a profession of humble protectors, it has been our honor to award many peace officers over the years who have exhibited excellence in a variety of ways. Today we honor one such peace officer and friend, Mark Brinkman, who embodied excellence within the profession and so much more.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Teresa Taylor. I have the great honor of being the Executive Director for the Washington Council of Police and Sheriffs. And I'm here this morning to assist in this recognition of Mark Brinkman. In April 2021, we suddenly and tragically lost Officer Mark Brinkman, a treasured father, son, husband, brother, friend, and colleague. Those that knew Mark found that he radiated a presence that was genuine, honest, and humble. Mark's life and career in law enforcement was remarkable in many ways, present in the way he impacted the work environment of his colleagues and his contributions to community safety, in addition to his commitment to the place he lived, worshipped, and volunteered. Mark was a beacon of connection, evident in the way he treated those he loved, as well as the citizens he came into contact with, always with dignity and kindness. Mark dedicated his career to law enforcement after graduating from the Seattle Police Academy, that's going back, in 1988. He was an officer for 35 years, beginning his law enforcement career in the city of Langley, before transferring to Island County Sheriff's Office and finally spending his last 25 years with Linwood Police Department. Mark was a highly valued member and leader at Walkops. This was evident not only in his role as a board member since 2019, but also when he willingly stepped into the role of Vice President and Government Relations Committee Chair during the most tumultuous legislative session that Washington State law enforcement had ever experienced. In the face of adversity, Mark spoke with conviction and proudly represented all of Washington State's rank and file peace officers with his professionalism, compassionate nature, and technical expertise. Legislators who had the opportunity to interact with Mark, and maybe some city council members as well, respected his viewpoint and listened when he spoke. Of course, Mark was a bit of a low talker, and that made it necessary to really listen to what he had to say. Chris, you're going to talk about leadership.
Yeah, when I think of Mark, Mark represented the best of all of us, and Mark was the kind of cop that I wish that I were and could become, right? So as a model to all of us, Mark was the kind of cop that I wanted to be and want to be, right? Mark came to us, like Teresa said, at one of the most difficult times to be the GRC chair for the stuff that we were confronting in Olympia. And Mark not only stepped into that role, he was called to serve in that role. And Mark stepped up in that capacity. The challenges of trying to follow Daryl and Neil into the role of GRC chair, we had some really long tenured, long serving members that served in those roles for a long time. To come in relatively short order, be able to wrestle that role and to do the job that he did, I will always admire the way that he listened actively and was able to take that information and persuasively put it into the kind of advocacy that we can all be proud of in a way that made us all proud. Mark was a tremendous leader, and he is missed terribly. So, thank you.
Mark also distinguished himself as a leader and mentor locally in his service as the president of the Linwood Police Guild. Current Guild President Ron Moore is here with us today to share a bit about Mark's impact as a union leader and mentor within his guild and the Linwood Police Department. Please welcome Ron Moore.
Hi, like she said, I'm Ron Moore with Linwood Police. I was asked to talk about what Mark meant to us in our department. Sorry. Well, Mark was the center, he was the heart of our department. He was our pastor, our father, our brother, our friend. Calm demeanor. Mark would listen, make you feel heard, and then give you the advice you needed. Often with some off-color humor, but he was always funny. It is a heartfelt loss when any member of our law enforcement family is taken before their time. Mark was in our lives in so many ways that his loss was just magnified for us at Linwood. We miss his brilliant guild leadership, his calm competence at the chaotic scenes we come across on patrol, and his almost uncanny ability to do a personal check-in with any of us, just when you needed to talk to him the most. I can say that personally. But I think we can count ourselves as fortunate because we knew Mark. We knew him as a man of his word. He was a dedicated father, husband, a great cop, and a true and loyal friend. He didn't want any fanfare or glory, but he had the full attention of any and every group he encountered, whether it was congregation, suspects, victims at a scene, group of young officers in the squadron who would just basically, sit and listen, or a bunch of seasoned professionals, old guys. He always had our full attention and respect. We loved him, and we miss him.
Mark was especially passionate about traffic safety, where he was widely recognized for his specialized work as a drug recognition expert and trainer. In fact, NBC News once referred to him as the nation's biggest buzzkill. Impacted early in his career by the traumatic results of a drunk driver, Mark made it his mission to protect his community from the negligence of those under the influence. He became a fixture in the region, serving as a law enforcement liaison to the Target Zero program, a statewide highway safety plan aimed at reducing traffic fatalities and serious injuries on Washington's roadways to zero by the year 2030. In 2016, Mark was awarded the Washington Traffic Safety Commission's Law Enforcement Liaison of the Year. Ben's going to remark on behalf of a friend of Mark's.
Yeah, my name is Ben Jones, and I have the privilege of serving with Mark on the Law Ops Board. I was asked to speak on behalf of Snohomish County Target Zero Manager Stacy McShane. Unfortunately, couldn't be here with us today, but graciously sent us a short excerpt from their important work together. It's hard to believe it's been a year since Mark's passing. He left a hole in so many areas, but particularly in traffic safety. He is responsible for many iterations of traffic safety programs over a 20-plus year span in Snohomish County. As the law enforcement liaison to our Target Zero program, he helped shape and implement our traffic safety strategy. While doing that, he still worked the road, still worked patrols, and still arrested DUIs on a regular basis. He mentored so many of our region's officers that his legacy will carry on through them. His passion for traffic safety was unparalleled. He arrested hundreds, if not thousands, of DUIs throughout his career. Mark was a leader among the other traffic safety professionals from all over the state, especially in the drug recognition expert program. Mark and I worked closely together, attending many meetings, conferences, and trainings. One year, a conference he was speaking at mistakenly labeled him Dr. Brinkman, which gave us all a good laugh. We started calling him Copter Brinkman. Mark never took life too seriously and had a way about him that drew people in and made them want to follow in the traffic safety path. He was able to bring people into the program and keep them motivated, even when things were tough. He's dearly missed every single day. What I miss the most is our road trips and rocking out to 80s hair bands and chatting about life. I know that Mark would be humbled with all this posthumous attention he is getting, awards being named after him and such. But all of it is well-deserved and will inspire the next generation of traffic safety champions in Washington State.
There's more about Mark. Mark also served locally within his faith community as youth pastor. Today we have the honor of having Ben Brinkman, his brother, share with us a little about Mark's work off the streets.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And I was asked to share a little bit about some local impact he had. And as I'm hearing everybody speak, what's so awesome about everything I'm hearing is this isn't something Mark did, this is just who he was. If you knew Mark well, he'd often joke around about his commanding presence and that it just kind of followed him everywhere he went. But there is a verse in the Bible. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people." And that's something Mark did. He wasn't simply working for people, he was working for the Lord. This verse, I believe, describes my brother Mark as he worked extremely hard and diligently at everything he did. Whether that was with his family, with his organization, the police department, his church, or picking up one-to-many side roofing jobs. Some of you may have had to do a job. He always worked diligently and willingly as unto the Lord. It was this work ethic that came from his faith foundation that always caused him to do things with excellence. As involved as he was in his work and all that surrounds it, Mark was even more involved in his local community and church. Mark served as an associate pastor at South Whitby Assembly of God for 20 years, teaching Bible classes, preaching on sermons on the weekend, and to youth on Wednesday nights. Mark served at a high level, speaking wisdom into the decisions that were made at the church as well. The youth ministry always had a special place in Mark's heart. He led that youth ministry for most of his time there. Additionally, Mark led 6 mission trips to remote areas in Mexico where he would teach and preach the Bible as well. I spent some time this last week on the island where Mark resided and where I grew up. And walking around Langley, going into cafes and coffee shops, people would look at me and say, "Are you Mark's brother?" And I'm like, "No, I have a name." And I would say, "Yes, I'm Mark's brother." And encounter after encounter after encounter, these people would tell me just a story that happened with Mark and how it impacted their life. There's one particular one. This young lady, just yesterday, came up to me and my wife and said, "Are you Mark's brother?" I said, "Yeah, I am." She said, "I have to tell you, my life has been absolutely impacted by him." I used to go to the youth ministry 11 Wednesday nights, and we would go, and he would often tell us all his cop stories, and sometimes he'd pull out the videos of things he showed up on, and he'd show them to us. We're like, "That's our pastor." And she shared this. She shared, a lot of us that came, some of us didn't make it, some of us overdosed and different things. And she shared the story. She goes, "But people like me that made it really owe it to Mark Brinkman. And my life has been absolutely impacted." So many stories like that just in the last few days as I walked around Whidbey Island. These are just a few of the things Mark did to be actively involved in his local community. Time would go too long if I was to speak of the weddings he officiated, the pastoral counseling he did, his involvement in the local fair, the 4th of July celebrations, other local happenings on the island. Mark used to joke around about his commanding presence, saying things like, "You're only saying yes to me because of my commanding presence." Or, "People like me because of my commanding presence." Honestly, though, I don't think it was just about his physical stature as much as it was his character and his work ethic. So if you ever find yourself in the south end of Whidbey, sitting in a cafe or walking around Langley, simply ask a local if you knew Mark Brinkman. Chances are they have. And they'll have a rich story to tell about it.
This isn't on my script, but, when the board decided that this was what they wanted to do, they wanted to rename our longstanding Law Enforcement Officer of the Year award. They wanted to recognize and remember Mark forever. I knew that was the right thing to do. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But when you listen to all of this woven together, it really feels like such an important thing we're doing and so well deserved. The next person that's going to come up is you.
As you heard today, we lost a remarkable man. Mark's duty was to serve, and he did so exceptionally across all areas of his life. Since the loss, the WACOPS Executive Board has wanted to find a way to honor his work and memory in a lasting and impressionable way. Mark's achievements will be aspired to and remembered by future peace officers across Washington State as WACOPS renames its Law Enforcement Officer of the Year award to the Mark Brinkman Distinguished Service Award. Those who perform their duties with exceptional community service, bravery, or heroism will have the opportunity to be considered for this coveted recognition. We have prepared a short slideshow to remember his kindness, humor, and memories he created here at WACOPS and beyond.
So now if I could invite a few people to the front of the room. Wesley, Joel, Nathan, and Naomi, if you would please join us over by the table there. It is with great respect, admiration, and appreciation that Block Hops recognizes Mark Brinkman for a distinguished career as a servant, leader, friend, and protector. Thank you, Leslie, Joel, Naomi, Nathan, and the rest of his family for being the foundation upon which Mark could lean upon. Without the support of family, none of us, as law enforcement officers, would be able to continue this work day in and day out. Mark was extremely blessed. His contributions to public safety and the greater good of his community will forever be remembered. If you guys would like to take a moment to talk about Mark, you're welcome to.
Could I say something?
You may absolutely say something.
Before I moved to California, I rode around with Mark one evening when he was a police officer, and he stopped a drunk driver, and when we got to the police department, the man said, "Officer, can I ask you your name?" And Mark said, "Sure, I'm Mike Brinkman." And the man just almost gushed. He said, "Wow, Brinkman, I almost feel honored to be arrested by Brinkman." I just treasured that with him on the city was.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, and thank you for sharing Mark with us. Our lives are all better because we got to know Mark and work with Mark. So we are going to hand the awards.
And then we're going to have everybody who's here for Mark come up front and take a picture. These are really big. Do you want to hold it? I'm not going to make you hold it. But we do have boxes. So all of Mark's family and people who are here for Mark come up and we're going to take a photo, make sure we get it all. And then actually, let's try to come. No, you can be in there. We got everybody up at the door. Let's get people behind the table, in front of the table, not the shorties. Are they politically challenged people in the front? You guys in the back. Let's in the front. Yeah, we are. I guess there's like a whole disco in there. I just want to try to let's get Naomi over here. Let's scooch. I just want to get everybody as close together as possible. Photos are always challenging. All right. 1, 2, 3. Good view. Excellent. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say that wasn't given an opportunity to speak? No, we're not going to.
I'd like to just
Yeah, please.
say a couple words. I'm not an elegant speaker, and I applaud those who spoke before me and everything, but I had a special bond with Mark. When I was sheriff, I had picked him to be the next sheriff, and we would meet on a regular basis and discuss his future. And I would tell you this about the man. In the world of politics today, there's the right side and the left side, there's no in between. But he had a charisma that would have enabled him to draw those two sides together. And there's nothing more in police management in today's world than we need that somebody has that kind of charismatic appeal. can't say enough about that. He would have been a wonderful sheriff, far better than I was. He would have had the support of the community, he would have had the support of his officers, he had it all going. But I couldn't quite convince him to do it. Linwood was a good reason why. He was well cared for in that department. So, what?
So I could stay home with the kids.
So God love him, and